Yeah,
So,
Tanya, could you go that sharing the seller disclosure so they get it so they can fill it out? Could you go through that one more? Because yeah, I asked you about that. You said, "Oh, do it this way," and it's not. They get it so they can fill it out.
yep.
Is that
Okay.
the share function or something?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this seller disclosure back into draft mode. So let me show you a couple things first of all. Let's go into edit mode, and you will see that this particular form has two sections. Okay, we've got the top information, and that is really, the broker is going to, some of this is going to populate automatically. Business name and all of that will populate automatically if you're generating this from a rep agreement or from a purchase agreement. Authorized signer. So, is the buyer going to sign this disclosure? Again, the reason that's there is because if you're doing this for a purchase agreement, then yeah, you have a buyer that's going to be signing it, right? But if you're just doing this in advance at the listing stage where you want your seller to fill out a disclosure so
Oh,
you
yeah.
can identify any issues, then there's no point in having buyer information here because you don't have a buyer yet.
Sure.
So you just click, yes, if you have a buyer, no, if you don't, if you have a buyer, if you're doing this from a purchase agreement, then the buyer information will automatically populate from the purchase agreement. But otherwise, you can always fill that in manually. If if it's listing stage, just say no, all that goes away. When you share this, the only thing that the seller gets is from this line down. So they're going to see seller disclosure for whatever the business name is, and they're going to have the ability to go through and say yes, no, yes, no. I think initially all of these just say please choose when they initially see it. So anything they respond yes to, it's going to ask them why, provide the details. And so we know that where this comes in handy is in filling out that last page, the addendum to the disclosure.
Yeah.
And in the past, I always had problems where people would answer yes to two or three things, but then they would never fill out the addendum and never give us
Oh,
the
back
reasons.
page. Yeah.
So you will see that this automatically says A1, A4, A7, and it'll have the explanations in there if I, in fact, had put them there. One thing Legito does, which I really like, is if there's information missing, it's always going to give it to you this way and show you the brackets, highlighted with a dot in between. And that tells you that there's information that should be entered into the document that is missing. So print preview, I always look for stuff like this. In this particular document, obviously, they don't put bullets in because they don't know if you're going to answer yes or no, and so they don't do that through all of these. But this is an area where you can obviously see that there's a lot of information missing. So
So, Tanya, how do you get rid of those little yellow dots if you're going to just download this and send it to a client via DocuSign?
if you're not going to have them fill it out.
No, like say you create this for your seller and then and the seller filled it out, but they missed some information, right?
Yeah.
So do those little yellow dots just show up because you sent it to them through Legito? That's why, right?
Right. They show up to tell you that they're still missing information. I just send the email. I send the client an email and just say, hey, you missed, two or three questions or whatever. And please respond. Please use the same link and respond to it. To share
Okay.
this, I mean, basically, if you're going to send this to your seller instead of print preview or anything on the download side, you're using this button. The little looks like a little person, and
Mhm.
that's how you share documents. And so you'll see that you have the ability to share externally And that's what you're going to do. Externally means anything outside of CAB's account or outside of the Legito system. So you're going to share this externally with a person that doesn't have a login in Legito. It's going to be your client, and you have the ability to share the document or the just a revision, but generally you're going to leave this defaulted at document. It can be a one use, which I never use, because like I said, if they miss anything, I want them to use the same link and do it again. So it's going to be a permanent share. You're going to give them the ability to edit the document, because view is not going to be helpful, right? So they're going to edit the document, and then you go ahead, and if that's the only thing you want to do, then you're going to send them a link. Okay, so when you send them the link, it's going to say, what's the email address you want to send it to? And this is where you would put in your client, the seller's email address, and then you just click on send.
Harry, whether you send it by whether you send this out to them with Legito sign doesn't matter about those items. If something is missing, it's going to pop up whether you send it out to them this way or not. So the key is to go in and have them enter the data, or enter the data yourself, and then the little asterisk with yellow disappears. Correct, Tawnya?
Correct.